Now in this video we're going to be building a modal component. Well, what is a modal? Well, it's typically a window that pops up that contains some form of content. It's usually smaller than the screen in which it appears, and there is a opaque pane underneath it, which effectively stops you being able to use some of the underlying buttons until you've dealt with the modal content. So it's a way of focusing the attention of the user onto a specific region of the screen and making sure that they interact with that. We're going to be building a form within a modal. You can do different things with a modal. So for instance, here I'm going to open a add module form. So it's going to be part of our CRUDL type operations. So rather than going to another page and losing the context perhaps of our list of current modals, we'll still see the modals underneath, but there will be the modules underneath, but we'll see this modal on the top asking us to add something new to that content. So it's a way of creating some visual context, but at the same time focusing the user on a particular region of the screen. So another thing that we can use modals for is building alerts on confirmation windows and error notification windows, what I call notifications. So for instance, here, there's some kind of error being reported where we're being focused on to that particular message. We can get rid of the message or retry or do various things. But again, we're not being allowed to interact with the rest of the screen until we've dealt with that particular part of the UI, that particular part of the workflow. So modals are very useful in terms of being able to focus the user onto a particular aspect of the workflow and preventing them accessing other aspects of the content on the screen. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is a little bit of refactoring. I'm going to go to the views and get our modules page. And what I want to do here is define the endpoint and then pass that endpoint to a component that is going to do all the listing, updating, etc., rather than doing it all here. So it's going to be called module CRUDLer, or modules CRUDLer, module CRUDLer. And CRUDLer is a particular workflow. It's you get a list of entities, and then you can add new ones, update existing ones, delete ones, etc. So we're heading towards a CRUDLer component. Probably not get that done until after the next video, in fact. But we'll start on it here, prepare for it here. So basically, I want to empty a lot of the content out of modules and pop it into a new modules entity called module CRUDLer. So create a new file, module CRUDLer.jsx. And I've already got some template for this. I'll pop it in directly. Okay, so here's the module CRUDLer with all the different sections in it and an export on that. So what we want to do now is to start moving the state, the handlers, and the view from modules into this component. So we'll go down and we'll dig out the view that we want. So we'll leave modules here, and we're going to, so we want all of this code here. So the add button, the module form, and then the list of module cards. So what is all that? That's this section here. So X. Bring this, pop it into here. Okay. It's complaining a little bit. Figure out why in a minute. And then we wanted, and so in here we're going to create a module CRUDLer component, or rather import it, and then use it here. And we're going to pass to that the endpoint. And then all of the rest of the state and the handlers are all going to go and be moved into the module CRUDler. So the only thing we need to pass to this module CRUDler is the endpoint. So we'll create a prop called endpoint. And that will be equal to the endpoint that we created up here. So modules is no more than a view which sets up the endpoint from the useauth and then passes that to the CRUDler. Okay, so while we're here, we'll dig out the handlers and the state. Move this over. Okay. And then we'll also import this module. So where does it live? Okay, so we're not going to need any of these things. These things here will also move over. Copy. I'm not sure I need them all. We'll bring them over for the minute. And there will be some states set up here, but we don't have any state now in modules, so I can move this. Copy. Move that to module CRUDler. So I can, all the stuff that's grayed out, we're no longer using here. Okay. But we do need to import. So if I go back, borrow this, use that to modify it. So the module CRUDler lives where module form was. Oops. So it's in entity module CRUDler. Okay, so that looks like everything here. And then let's go back here and just make sure we've set up everything properly over here. So we have module CRUDler. All of these components seem to be being used. Good. Module CRUDler. So we are having closed the fragment. Okay, good. So that looks fine. All we've done is really just move code around, so it should still work. Control S. Control S. Okay, so now, oops, got an error. Seems to be, oh, of course, we copied over into module CRUDler a whole bunch of imports, but who knows if they're in the right place anymore. So first of all, there's the API. It's complaining first about the API. So where are we now? So we are now deeper in. We're in modules. So we're going to go up one. And then, so we fixed that one. Now UI. So we're going to go up one. We are in entity, so we don't need this. Similarly down here, we're going to go up one. Oops. And we are already in module. Control S. Okay, good. And if we log in as staff, there's Graham. Go to modules. Okay, didn't show anything. Look at the error console. So my endpoint is not defined, silly me. So we pass into here the endpoint, and we then use that in the use load. Control S, save. Okay, that looks a bit better. Do login. Login is Graham. And then have a look at the modules. So here are all the modules. So as before, we have our add module button, which opens out a form at the top of this list. We're going to be taking that out next and putting that into a modal, and then lists our modules. And of course, this is the context against which we want to see the add. So we see the list. this is Cruddler. We see the list. It provides us the context. We add a new component. And rather than appearing at the top here and pushing everything down, we can just have it open within a modal over the top. So now let's make an actual modal. So before we make it, let's invoke it here. So we're in top of model Cruddler. So we'll add a component modal, which doesn't exist yet, and we'll give it some content. So this is a modal, and we're hoping that's going to pop up in the middle of the screen. So we'll need to import that. Again, it doesn't exist yet. It's going to be built in the UI folder. So it comes before action. So at the moment anyway, so import modal, and that's going to come from /UI /modal JSX. Okay, so let's go and create that. So we'll go to UI. And let's create a new file, modal.jsx. While we're here, we'll make it styling. So new file, modal.css. Okay, so into our modal file, I'm just going to copy some the template, usual style. So we've got modal. It wraps children, so the children are therefore rendered within this. So okay, so what is a modal? A modal has a background. So this is the modal background, and it will lie over everything. So we won't bother. We'll just do this bit by bit. So we'll start with the modal background. We're not actually going to render any children. So all we want to see is the modal background, which should obscure everything, and it'll print onto there. This is the modal background. So save that. And we need to give it some styling so that it does in fact take the whole of the. So a div.modal overlay, class overlay, it has appearance and positioning. So it should take the full view height and view width, no padding. I'm going to make it slightly transparent gray so that we can see the underlying context. I'm going to position it. So well, this basically just moves it to the center and then fills the whole screen. Okay, so we'll save that. And then we've got a model with some children. This will be ignored because we're not rendering that. So let's have a look and see what that looks like. Control this. Okay, so this is a model background, it says. But I've forgotten, I think, to import the style. So import to the same place, Control S. So there we go. So there's the background. This is fully taken the background, and up here you just about see it says this is the model background. Okay, so that's the actual background. Okay, so let's have the foreground. So that was the model overlay, and within that we now want to render the model pane. Okay, and we'll need some more styling for this. Okay, so we have the model plane. It's going to appear within the model overlay. So Control S. Good, so we have the model plane. Okay, so its appearance is simply a border radius, and it's again translated to the middle. Okay, so if we save this, and there it is. This is the model. You can see it just about in here. Now the model itself is agnostic about how that appears. It's going to be whatever you put into the model that will control how it looks. Nonetheless, we want to give the model some structure to it. So within the model plane, I'm going to add a header with a title in it and place a main in which to render the children. Okay, so the model pane has a header and it has a main. Now we need to set up the styling for that. So we'll go to model. Okay, so down within the model pane, add in here. Oops. In here. Okay, so within the model pane, we're going to add a header. Okay, so the header has a width of 100%. It's 50 pixels high. There's a bit of padding. The color is white. So we are not agnostic about the title. The font's a certain size. There is a border radius at the top left and right corner. And using our style, the background color is lime green. Perhaps we should have had that really as one of our globals. And then underneath the title is the main. Again, it's 100% wide, no padding. There's a light border around it, and it is got a border radius around the bottom. And then both of them are centered in the middle. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Ooh, now one other thing I need to do is to give the model a title. Title, and then we'll need to pass a title. So now let's go and use that. So here's the model, pop in a title, so title equals, now what we'll do is we'll put our form in here now. So the title is I've got it down here, add a new module. Okay. And then instead of having this as a model, we'll pop in the actual form. So the form is down here. Okay. Now by default, this is going to show. We have to see what's going on there. Control S. Okay, good. Get rid of the old one. So log in staff, modules, and there we go. So being crushed a little bit at the moment, but there's the form. It's the same form as we had before, but instead of it opening out here at the top of the page and pushing everything down, it now appears over the top. Now, actually, it's got this little horrible border here. So I realized that add form probably had two. Let's have a think. Now I think we need to add some padding to the main part. So where do we want to go, module? Okay, so in the main, got 0 padding at the moment, so let's add 20 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Control S. Okay, so everything's 20. So we've got a border, a padding there of 20 pixels. Now the other thing is, when it gets a bit small, it starts getting crushed. So I think I'm going to add a minimum width to my, not to my model, rather, to my module form. So let's find module form. So we want it to be 100%, but we'll add a minimum width in there of 300 pixels. Control S. That's good. Looks a bit better. So as it gets bigger, it goes out to the full size to be able to contain the form. And then it goes down to, as it turns out, 300 is about the same as the minimum size. So there's our form. So we now can see the new form on the top of the modals. We can't interact with any of these buttons until we've dealt with this. Not sure if the cancel worked. No, cancel is not working yet. Now let's clean this up a bit. Okay, so we don't have to hide the buttons anymore because they'll just be, we can't interact with them while the model's up. So we can get rid of this. And we don't need to show the form at the top of the page, but because we're going to put it in the model, but we should only show the model when show form is true. So we'll need to rescue this. And then get rid of this line. Control S. Okay, so initially obviously show form is false, so the modal has disappeared. We press the button as before and the modal will appear. We can now access the handle success, the handle cancel, and that will change the state of show form and it will then disappear. Okay, good. Now, I might be opening more than one modal and the code here is a little bit ugly. So what I'm going to do is create a hook called use modal, which is just going to return to me the state, which I will move into the use modal hook and also create a couple of methods, open and close, and I'll just return all those. So we're just going to move this functionality out of here into a hook. So that's going to look something like this. So it'll be const. We'll have the show form. We'll have a method open form returned and close form. And that will come from the use modal hook, which we can initialize as open or closed. In this case, we'll have it closed. Okay, so once we've got that, and it's going to replace this down here, we can then, so we're going to get rid of all of this and move it into the use modal hook. So we can now, where it says cancel here, instead of set show form false, rather this line here, we can go close form. So copy close form. So we'll just close it there. So the cancel will disappear. And we can pop that in here. Close form. Don't think I use it anywhere else. I've got the handle add here. So a handle add, there might be other things you want to do. So having a handler here called handle add, which calls the open form, might be something we do in the future, but for the moment, we don't need it. We just do open form. Okay, so where does that go? Here we go. So add a new module, we open the form. So these are going to go. I think that's everything. So let's go now to the modal. Now we're going to create a new hook here. So function use modal, and it's going to take is open, so an initial argument, which in our initial instance was we had as false. Okay, so into here we're going to put our little structuring comments and then go and get the code that we want to move. So it's this code here. Okay, so we've got our show form. Now we don't want, this is a controller that we might use to control multiple different modals. So we don't want to say form here. So we're just going to go simply show and set show. And then the handler called open. Okay, so that set show is true. And close is set show is false. And then finally we want to return and then destructure inside our parent. We're going to return an array. So return. Now that's going to have show, open, and close. Okay, so we return those three things. Now it's saying it is open is not being used, so that's right. Need to pop that in here and then use modal. Okay, so use modal is not exported. Now we got a default export, so I've got two things we now want to export, so we can't use this default export. And instead we'll explicitly export both these things. And we'll have to change the import statement in the parent. Export. So explicit, we're exporting two things from here. So we now need to go back. Now notice we're not using state anymore, so we get rid of that. Some future video I might put it back in again. And I've lost the handler's structuring element. So there still is a handle success. Put that back in. All right, so we need to go back up to here to modal. Now we want two things out of the modal file: the use modal, and the modal itself. Good. All right, so I think that's everything. I haven't done anything. Got close form, handle success, open form. We could have called these handle open, handle close. Have our handle convention. So many different conventions. This is a nice open form, close form. So I'll just leave it like that. Okay, so let's save that. Now, has something broken? Let's open this. Inspect. Close. State was not defined. Silly on me. Okay, so we use in here modal. So we need to import state from React. Use state rather. There we go. Control S. And then start up the development server again, I think. Okay. Login. Login is staff. Press modules. There we go. There's our modules. That's working. Now let's press the button, opens the form, close the form. Great, everything's working. Now I want to extend this modal, use modal hook, to store some content. Now at the moment, the modal has two forms of content. It is the title and the parent, the children, what's rendered inside the modal. So what I'm going to do is add to the state that's inside use modal to store content. And in the first case, this is simply the title of the modal. But when we go on to do some notifications, the alert, the error notification, the confirmation, are you sure? We're going to provide it with some strings or content in general to place in the notification. So I'm going to add this new element of state, of content to the state. Okay, so we'll go to module.jsx, go to the hook, and I'm going to add some new state. Okay, and we're going to call it content. Set the content. And we're going to set that content. Boom, boom, boom. We need to be careful. Initial content from. Should we do it here from the hook? From the hook. Boom, boom, boom. Well, we can. So initial content. Should we wish? No, not actually going to do it this way, but now because I'm not going to do it this way, I might not even supply any initial content when I create the use modal. So I'm going to, not even an argument, so I'm going to put in a default argument, which is null. So if I don't supply this argument, it's null. So that's what's going to go into the use state. Okay, so when I come to open the modal, I'm going to pass it content. So that's why I don't really need it there. But so I'm going to do some content. And in order, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to update the state. So we're going to have to create a little function body in which we set show to be true. And then we now need to set the content to content, what was passed to the open. Close. And then when we close, we don't have to do anything particular. The content will still be there. And then we're going to return this content as a fourth thing, but I'm going to actually put it in second place here. So the state at the beginning and the methods afterwards. So show, content, and then the open and close. So I've extended Modal to also have some content state, which I'm maintaining. Let's just check I've done this correctly. It seems fine. Save. Now, we need to change up here, the on show. Okay, so I'm going to get back, and I'm going to use this content field to store the title of the form. So form title, I shall destructure it as, and I'm going to, the modal is going to by default be closed, and I'm not going to supply any content, so just the content will be null. So the form title then I use down here to parameterize the modal. Okay. So whatever's the content that's stored in the modal will be shown in the modal itself. And the other thing we need to do when we do an open, we're going to have to supply the content, the title. So that's down here. So the add function. So on click open. So we want to supply some a variable to a parameter to open form. So we're going to have to use anonymous function. And then we're going to pop in here the string that we want. So, okay. Now, that should, so add new module, add new module. So the button's going to be called add new module, and then the form that gets opened will have a title, add new module. Now that's, I wonder, that's a little bit ugly. I'd have to change that in two different places. So let's have a, in the view, let's have a view variable, const, call it add, shall we call it add new module, just call it that, equals this string. Copy, and then use this variable here and here. So I need to change it in one particular place, and it might make this shorter. Barely shorter. There we go. Okay, so add new module. That string is then passed to open form, stored in the content, state updates, and then we use that. We parameterize the modal with its title, which will then be displayed. So save. Okay. So if we now press add new module, there we go. Let's just prove it's working by going add really new module. Control S, close. So add really new module, add really new module. So that's working. Okay, so we're now using, we're now storing some content inside the modal, the use modal hook. Now, we go back to use modal. This page is now going to render, this modal will now render, or rather the content on this screen will now render 3 times, because we're doing a set show and a set content. And these are set when we do the open. It will then change and cause the page to reload. So it will re-render for the show, sorry, only twice. It'll re-render for the show, it'll re-render for the content. So we'll force this to render twice. Now, to get around that, we're going to use a trick to put the state into one variable. And this is one of the use cases of the use reducer hook, which you may have come across. You can put all your state in one place. All right, so what we're going to do is now create a new state variable, which combines them both. It's an object which combines both these. So const, and we're going to call it state. It's all hidden away in here, so we may as well call it set state, and it's called set, and the setter is set state. Okay, and we need the use state. Okay, now we need to give it an initial value. Now what are we going to put in here? We're going to put both the is open, or rather the show and the content. We're going to put them both in here. So we want to create an object which is got show and content in it. Now this object, when we initialize it here, will be show will be is open, will be true or false, and content will be initial content. It will either have something in it or it'll be null. Okay, so we've created one store now, one state variable, and so when we change either the show or the open, we'll only render once. It'll only cause a render once. So let's just check, make sure I haven't messed anything up. Okay, so we can now get rid of that. Now we're going to have to modify these. So we'll now only have one set state. So set state, and come to that in a second. So set state. Now what's going to go in there? So we're going to create a new object. Now we're going to set show property to true, and we're going to set the content to whatever is passed in the open function parameter rather. Okay, so true, and the content will be whatever was passed to it. Now the content, and let's get rid of this. Now if we've got this syntax content, property name, content variable, we can just get rid of one of them. All right, so we're going to update the state with a true value and this new content that we created, and we put it in a new object in order to force the set state to notice that it's different, and then cause the state to be updated and the page to be re-rendered. Now for the close, we don't pass anything. So we want to set the show to true. So we're going to create a new object. Now we can either explicitly say what the content is, or we can just do a spread operator. What shall I do? I'll make it explicit. So show false and content. And in this case, the content is, oh, no, it's the state. Oh, no, I'm being silly. Okay, we could have content.state. Do it like that. But then we have to say content. Okay, well, let's do it content. Okay, so it would look like that. Ugh, very ugly. So why don't we go, we're going to create a new, get rid of this. We're going to create a new object, and inside that object we're going to spread out our current state. It's only two things, but we'll spread it out there, and then we overwrite the show with the false, and we create a new object which updates state, causing a re-render. So we save. Okay, you're going to have to restart that, never mind. So I think that's that. If we go back now to where we use it, so form title. Maybe there's an error. We shall see. Form title. Oh, yes, we made a mistake. So go back here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is return the show and the content, and then the open and the close. But there is no show and content. They live inside state. So state.show, take that out, and state.content, provide that as the arguments. Control save. Now let's restart this. Okay, log in as staff modules. Okay, so let's just check that everything is as I expect. Open form, we haven't changed. Good, so if we add a new module, it's opened. Cancel's not working, so the close didn't work. So Something wrong with close form. Where do we close it? On cancel, close form, fourth argument. Back to the model, close, that's correct. Close equals set show. Oh, set show. It should be set state. Save. Cancel, great. So open, close. Okay, so we're now storing our more complex state inside the use modal, and it has been combined into a single object to prevent multiple renders. So you can imagine if you had multiple pieces of state, you're all updating them at different times, then there would be lots of horrible re-rendering. And finally, a last tweak. I want to get rid of this conditional and push that in to the modal itself as a prop, and then let the modal decide whether to render or not. So if we move this, show, I'll have the prop called show equal, and we don't need this conditional, Control S, and we'll have to modify the modal, so show, and then we conditionally render. We'll go show, and if we show, then we will render modal, otherwise it's a null. Oops, made that. Control S. I'm always a bit amazed by the choices that Prettier uses. So this is show, conditional, close. No, I suppose so. Okay, so now if we go add a new module, cancel, that's all working as before. So all we did was push the conditional into the model itself. And I think that our code now looks much cleaner. So we have a use modal, which returns a boolean, whether to show or not, content, which in this case is a title, an open and close, which we can then use in our handlers, and then we have our modal, the show and the title. So the use modal and the modal itself are not explicitly connected, but we use one to control the other. And if we had another modal, we could create another modal, and use the another controller, another use modal to control that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to create are some notifications. These are small modals which fulfill particular purposes. We're going to create three. One is an alert, which is used to draw the attention of the user to some event. Second is a confirmation. So for instance, which demands that the user make some recommendation. So for instance, if you're going to delete something, you want to be sure. And then third one is some form of error. And we'll color code those, but they're basically very small modals. Okay, so what we'll do first of all is create our notifications in a new file. So we'll go notifications .jsx, and the accompanying styling notifications.scss. Okay, so we're going to create our first one, which is an alert. Okay, so we will need to import a modal. So import what do we want? The modal from. So it is, where are we? Notifications in the same folder. then we're going to use this modal. Okay, now I won't do a default export because we're going to export three things: an alert, confirmation, and notification, and error. Okay, so we're going to use this modal, and we're going to pass show to the modal. So we'll prop drill that down. Show equals show. So we'll control the alert modal in the same way we control a modal. And then we're going to create a title. Now all of these have specific titles. So the title of an alert is, in fact, alert. We could have called it notification. No, that changed my mind at some point. And then the child will be the message. So we'll pop that into a paragraph. And then we'll print out the message, whatever is in the message prop. Okay, so the other thing we're going to do is wrap this in a div. And we'll use this to style the modal. Control Z. And we'll add a class name equals, this is going to be notification alert. Okay. Now, just pop up what is inside a modal, because we're going to be using that. Inside the modal, there is a div, a header, and a main. So what we want to do is style the header and the main. So we're going to go to, we better import styling. Silly me. Import from notifications.css. Right. Now, there's an error there. What have I done wrong? Oh, not from. Silly me. Not from. So we import the styling. Okay. So we're going to do the styling. So we had a div notification alert. Now, we want to style the header in the background, so we can pop in here header. So any header that appears within, no matter how far down within the notification alert, we can style, and we're going to give it a background color. So normally it's lime green. Now, in order to override what's specified in the modal.js, we're going to have to say important. Okay, so that should override it. And we also want to style the main. And inside the main, we've put a paragraph. So what do we want to do with that? Well, we want to align the text to the center. Okay, I think that's fine. Save that. And then save this. Okay, so we've just wrapped a modal within a notification, a div notification, and prop drilled the show and wrapped the message as a child of modal. Okay, now we've got an error. Oh, that's just restarted. So rid of that. Get to that in a minute. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is import this modal, this notification. So copy. So it is an alert, and it comes from our notifications. Okay. Now we'll go down here and we'll create a notification. No, sorry, an alert. I included it correctly. Yes, an alert. Should be self-closing. And we will pass it its props. So it's show equals. Now I'll just make this true now for the moment for creating a controller for it using use modal. And the message simply going to be, this is a notification. In fact, this is an alert notification. Control S. Okay. Notification, import notifications.css. What's gone wrong here? Import modal, import notifications. Control S. Okay, so now we just restart the server. Log in, modals. Now when we hit here, this is an alert. Now, it's not done what I expected. That's because I can't spell notification. There we go. So we have color-coded the header, even though it's in another component, and we've aligned the text. Now the other thing is, this notification is rather small, so I want to kind of give it a minimum height, a minimum width. So I'm going to go min width. Do that by it wraps around whatever the child is. So I'm going to make the main a certain width to a minimum width when it's an alert, when it's a notification rather. Okay, there we go. So there's our nice notification. All right. So I don't think we need the modal again. So we have an alert. Now we haven't got a controller for it yet. It's always on at the moment. So the next thing I'm going to do is a dismiss for this notification. So I'm going to add a button. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to need actions. I already have the, where is it? Let me borrow this. Action. Bum, bum, bum. So go to notifications. I think I can get rid of that styling. All right. So underneath the message, I'm going to put in, oops, that's the name of me, pop in an action or an action tray. So we need an action tray. And within that action tray, we need to put an action. So I'm going to put in an action dismiss. So we've got an action dismiss. We're going to say show text, which is the dismiss. And then we have an on-click. So we're going to need a on dismiss handler. So we'll pop that up here for the moment. So const dismiss. I'll just make it an empty anonymous function. Okay, Control S. Right. Oh yes, silly old me. So we're already, when we are in notifications, we're already in the UI. So all we need to do is out, Control S. Okay, good. And then here's our nice dismiss button. I'm not surprised how big it is, but never mind. So now we can get an alert and then dismiss it. Okay, so how are we actually going to dismiss it? Well, we will pass a non-dismiss into the function, into the component. So get rid of that. And then we will go to controller. So where's the alert? Here we go. So dis on dismiss. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to close the modal. And then in here, we're going to have to call an close alert method, which doesn't yet exist. So we'll make that from in a second. Alert, close alert. So we're going to need another one of these use modal controllers. This one's going to be called show alert. And there's going to be the message itself. So, this is the alert message. This is the content. And then we've got open alert. And we got close alert. Okay, so we can take the show alert and replace this hard-coded true. Now we'll want, there's nothing to open the modal at the moment, so I'm just going to open this automatically whenever we visit this, just for demonstration purposes. So we show the alert, here's the message, it's hard-coded at the moment, we'll deal with that later. And then there is the on dismiss with the close alert. So if we save this, okay, so this is an alert, and then press dismiss, and it goes away. Go to students, come back to modules, silly example, it's coming up automatically, press dismiss. Okay, so there is our modal. Now, the next bit is to use that in some sensible manner. Okay, so let's try and use that within our workflow. So we'll use an alert when we've successfully added a new module. So when does that happen? That happens here with the handle success. So when we do a handle success, we close the form, we then reload the modules, hopefully along with the new one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, after the close form here, I'm going to open the alert. We have to give it a message, which will be module successfully added. Now we need to take this content and actually put it in here. Okay, so I've got the show alert, which is being used to decide whether the alert is shown or not. We've got the message, which comes from the content. We push that content in through the open alert. Now, just spotted a problem. My modules endpoint, which we just copied in from modules into this CRUD alert earlier on. I did change it in the use load, but I didn't change it here in the load module. So that causes the modules to be reloaded. Let's get the endpoint right. And then the other thing I noticed was use modal. We opened that. We had that open by default, which we don't want now. Okay. And then once we've pushed this content and open the modal, we then have the on dismiss, which calls the close alert to change the value of show alert to false, and hence the state changed in this use modal, causing this to be re-rendered. Okay, save this. All right, so let's add a new module. Let's change it to ZZ on 2, 3, 4, 9s, the right format. 22, link it to Graham so you can find it later, and press submit. Okay, so apparently module successfully added to dismiss, and then we should find this new module, there we go, at the bottom. Perfect. Okay, the next step is to make 2 more notifications. So we have a alert. We're going to need a confirmation. So for instance, when we delete something, we're going to go, are you sure you want to delete? So the little modal pop up asking for confirmation. And the next one, and the third one is an error notification. So they're essentially the same modals as the same components as this alert, but with just slight variations, color and the buttons available. So let's make the first one. I'm going to call this confirmation, or confirm rather. There'll be the show, there'll be the message, which is the confirm request. There'll be a non-dismiss, but there'll also be a confirm handler. So on confirm. So that is yes, let's proceed, and the on dismiss is no, we're not going to do that. So class name will be slightly different. So this is be notification confirm. The modal title will be, what is this? Confirm. So confirmation requested, perhaps something like that. Might be a bit long, we'll see in a minute. And then we're going to, and then print out the message here. Are you sure you want to delete this? And then we're going to need another button. So yes, proceed please. So that's going to be, instead of dismiss, it'll be my yes action, which exists already in actions. And on the on click here will be on confirm. Okay, so just check that. Confirmation on confirm. Change the class name. The modal has a title. Has an extra button. Great. That's the first one. And then the second one is very similar to the alert, is an error. Okay, so the name of the component is error. Oops. Again, we can dismiss the error. And notification error is the class name. Set the title to be read. And then error detected, something like that. Confirmation, shorten this a bit, needed. Okay, error detected. Is that everything? So error, dismiss it, notification, error detected, message, dismiss. Good. So that acts in more or less the same way. Save that. Now we need to go to notifications. Okay, so now we have another CSS set of rules. So notification confirm. And this time it's going to be orange. Now we're repeating code here, so let's let's split this up a bit. So we'll put the main rules down here. Okay, so we have one rule for both of these, and then we can just have separate rules for the header colors. Quick check to see if I've done anything silly. Notification header blue, confirmation header orange. Both of these, the main is 200 pixels. And then we have a third one, which was the error. So notification error, make this red. And add this for the main. Okay, save. Okay, so we've got two new notification windows, so let's start using them. Okay, so where are we using? Module successfully added, that's where we're using the alert. So what I'm going to do now, it's a slightly crazy use story, slightly. I'm going to ask for confirmation before actually submitting a new module. So at the moment it just submits. And then we get an alert saying it's been successfully submitted. So what I want to do now is to go to the module form and ask, do I want to submit? Okay, so at the moment we've got, when we press, so go to add module, here is the form. So when we press submit, it just submits. So I want to instead intercept this submission and ask for confirmation. Do I want to proceed? So at the moment, the submit button down at the bottom of the form is attached to the submit handler. It's attached to the submit button. So we're going to do something slightly different. Okay, so here's the handle submit. So let's get rid of this console log. Okay, so now what we're going to do is create a new handler called handle confirm, and we'll attach that to the button instead. So a handle confirm. And that is going to be a function that calls the confirmation window, which is, now I need to go and get that. So, what have we got so far? Oh, yeah, we haven't used any alerts. So go up here and borrow this. Import. Okay, so we're going to create a, we're going to need them, we're going to need to control these windows. So we'll need the modal, the modal controller, the use modal, and we're going to need the notification, the confirmation windows component. So confirm, and that comes from notifications. Okay. All right, so we're going to open the confirmation here, confirm modal here. Now we haven't actually created this function yet, so let's now add the notification window, the confirmation window. I keep calling it window, the confirmation modal. So we'll go and borrow what we did before. So here's an alert. Let's borrow this. Pop it in here. This is now going to be a confirm. Okay, we will have to control it through a show confirm state variable. And then there'll be the confirm content, which is the message, confirm, and then on dismiss will be close the confirmation. Now, of course, that is the use, those are generated by the use modal, which I'll do next. But first, we notice that this is all gone horrid, and that's because we're asking return two things, the confirm and the div. Now, return will only return one thing, so we wrap. You can have as much within that one thing as you like. So we'll wrap everything in a fragment. Close the fragment. Just do a quick save to get the prettier working. Excellent. So we're now returning one thing, broken whatever it is over here, returning one thing which contains a confirmation window and the module form. Okay, so we now need to create our modal controller, which is use modal, which lives up in our state area. Okay, so initially the confirmation modal will be closed. So we want a show confirm to decide whether to show it or not. We want the confirm content, which is, are you sure you want to? Then open confirm and close confirm. Oops, close confirm. All right, so we'll now use the open confirm, and we have to provide the content that's going to be displayed in the confirm modal. So let's put in here, are you sure you want to create this module? Which is not really typical practice. You would just press submit and it would be added, and if you change your mind you just delete it. So it's a bit contrived, but it'll allow us to do what we want. So now we have a handle confirm. So when that, and we need to go and attach that. Oops, I haven't declared it, const. Okay, so this will open the modal. Now we need to attach it to something. So we're going to go down to the submit button. Instead of handle submit, we'll do handle confirm. Okay, so when we press submit, the modal will open. Okay, so the confirm has an on dismiss. So the modal will open saying, are you sure you want to do this? And you go, oh no, I don't. And you press the dismiss, which will then close the modal, and you're left with the form. So perhaps there's something more information you intended to give, or perhaps you're going to cancel the form. So we need an on confirmation action, confirm. So this is going to be, this is attached to the confirm button of the modal. And what are we going to do now? Well, we'll do the handle submit now. Okay, so when we've created a notification, when we press the submit button, this will open, asking us, are you sure you want to create, providing two buttons for us, which is the confirm button, which will then handle the real submit, and or the dismiss. Okay, let's save that. And reopen the development server, log in as staff, modules. Okay, so what was the last one I added? So we'll do XX next. So add a new modal. We'll call it XX8888. Attach it to me. Now, when we press submit, we should get a request to confirm submit. That's great. It's wider than I expected. Are you sure you want to create this modal? May have to come back to that. So let's dismiss. No, I don't want to. When we go back, it's because perhaps we wanted to change something here. Or we change it and we come back, submit. Do I want to submit this? No, I'm going to press yes, but I just want to remind myself. So we're going to be looking for this XX888 at the bottom of the list of current modules. So submit, are you sure you want to create this module? Yes. Oh, and then nicely, it says it's been added. Dismiss. And then hopefully at the bottom, great, we've got this new module. wish I'd added the buttons to delete these, but never mind. That's going to come in a later video when we start doing the CRUDL video. Okay, so we have now used the confirm notification. So now I want to use the other window, the last window, which is the delete, the error one. Okay, so we can do that here. So we've got the handle submit. So when we submit, we will then test the success. So if there's a success, then we do the on success, which is whatever we've passed into the modal. That's mostly just getting rid of the modal and recalling the list of modules. But if there's a problem, then we get an alert. So at the moment, we're using the sort of native alerts. So we want to instead use our new error component. Okay, so we've got to create that error component. So it looks more or less the same. Pop it underneath here. Okay, it only has a dismiss. It doesn't have an on confirm. And we're going to need another modal controller. So we're going to use modal again. And we'll create these new state variables. So there'll be show error, then the error content, whatever the error message is, and then close error. Okay. So now we need the controller for that. So repeat this line. Show error. Error content. Open the error. Close the error. Okay, so we're already using the close error. It's attached to the dismiss button. We're using the show error. It's going into the show and the error content, which is the message. So we now have to use this open error. Okay, so where we're going here, we're going to we're replacing alert with open error, and we pop the error message in there, which we had before. Now the only other thing is error. Have we loaded that in, imported it? So we've got the confirm, we haven't got the error. Error. Okay, now we can do a save. Okay, I think that's everything. Now we just try to introduce an error. So what have I got? I've got Y, Z, X. Let's do a Y. Let's introduce a new module, but we'll create a validation error first. So add a new module. Let's leave the code as XYZ. We'll get an error there from the back end when we try to insert and link it to me. So now if we do submit, we should get, are you sure? And then we say yes. It'll try to submit it, get an error, and we should get our error message. So submit, are you sure? Yes. So module code with value XYZ fails to match the pattern. Lovely red detected, error detected code. So we can do a dismiss on that. We can do a dismiss on this. And we'll now fix it. Y7777. Submit. Are you sure? Yes. Module added successfully. Let's just make sure that in fact did happen. So that's fantastic.